Less meat equals less heat. That's the new mantra from Sir Paul McCartney and a growing number of ecologists who promote a vegetarian lifestyle as being more environmentally friendly. While you see in this show that vegetables also get a roasting, hello and welcome. We're here at the annual agricultural fair in Paris. Over 3,000 livestock have come from all corners of the country. Meat that makes it onto your dinner plate, however, often travels much further. This, added to the amount of resources it takes to raise them, means that meat is often accused of being one of the most harmful foods for the environment. But adopting a vegetarian diet could actually make things worse. But fear not, in this show we'll be showing you the solution. And finally, with tight constraints on resources in India, farmers are moving away from traditional ways of watering their fields with new plastic pipes and mobile phones allowing for more efficient irrigation. We'll be looking at all this and more, but first here's some other news in brief.
Europe gives the green light to a genetically modified potato, stressing it would be grown for industrial use only and not for human consumption. It's the second GM product to be allowed to be grown in Europe, though others are sold on the market. A magnitude 8.8 earthquake strikes South America. The ground rumbled in Chile, the sea rose in the Pacific, and a day on Earth got shorter. Normally, the Earth needs 24 hours to rotate around the Sun, but the quake shifted the Earth's axis by 8 centimetres. And thus, according to NASA's calculations, Earthlings ended up losing 1.26 millionth of a second of a day. The world's largest solar-powered vessel is unveiled in Germany, topped by 500 square metres of solar panels. The €18 million boat has been designed to reach up to 15 knots. That's the equivalent of 25 kilometres an hour.
These cattle behind me can weigh up to 1,200 kilograms. That's a lot of dinners. But from farm to fork, meat travels down a carbon dioxide heavy path. Indeed, producing 1 kilogram of beef results in more CO2 than a 3-hour drive while you leave lights on at home. That's according to Japanese researchers who looked at all aspects of production and transportation. A bull from the Aubrac region in the south of France, a breed known for its ability to produce tenderloins from little food. So any talk of this bull's bad side makes his owner see red.
I honestly don't see how my bull is the cause of pollution. My bull and his field certainly pollutes a lot less than the tourists that travel to see him.
Animals transform energy from grain and vegetation, but at inefficient rates. To produce 1 calorie worth of meat, a cow consumes 11 calories of vegetation. Thus, eating meat means more land is used to produce animal feed and less land is given over to carbon-capturing forests, for example. What's more, the global appetite for beef, pork and poultry is rising, and industrial farms like these are taking over, meaning their feed needs to be imported and their produce exported, often great distances. All in all, while cattle may not look like the animal equivalent of a Hummer, cows are responsible for up to 20% of global greenhouse gases. Apart from the energy cost of their final product, as they graze, they also emit a dangerous gas, one this scientist is starting to examine.
Since the 18th century, global methane levels have gone up about 2.5%.
1 cow produces some 600 litres of methane every day. That's a greenhouse gas 23 times more powerful than CO2. But methane has a much shorter lifespan than carbon dioxide, and so overall it's considered less of a threat. However, it would still be best avoided.
In Europe, it's mostly the Benelux countries that have high emissions. And here it's because of animals.
The red zones point to where levels are highest, with the decomposition of open-air rubbish dumps and paddy fields also playing a role in methane production. India and China come out on top. But the problem is a global one, and with all countries under pressure to cut emissions, scientists are working on diets to cut down on bovine burps. In Australia, researchers suggest feeding cattle algae. In Ireland, fish oils are deemed to be the solution, while in France,
We know that linen grains can reduce the production of methane by 30 to 40%. But of course we can't imagine that one day fields across France, or indeed the world, will grow linen just for that. So there are downsides to this idea.
And while scientists continue to study ways of reducing a cow's release of methane, some regions are trying to cut down their carnivorous tastes. The city of Ghent in Belgium, for example, joined vegetarian activists and introduced a meat-free Thursday. Well, after hearing how meat can raise temperatures, we're now going to turn to vegetables and to a claim that could put a dent in the green credentials of a meat-free diet. According to a new study, chickpeas or lentils, for example, could be even more harmful to the environment, as they often travel long distances, are highly processed, and so use up a lot of energy before they make it to people's mouths. Well, joining us now to tell us more about that is Karine Lalouette of French environmental magazine Terre Eco. Karine, thank you for joining us. But tell us, how can healthy fruit and veg really be so bad?
Well, meat has been accused recently of damaging the environment quite badly. For example, experts say that livestock agriculture actually emits more CO2 than every train, truck, plane put together. So we can wonder, should we all become vegetarians to actually save the planet? The answer is actually not quite simple, simply because, first of all, farmers actually use fertilizers and pesticides to actually grow that fruit and vegetable. It actually emits more emissions. And you can actually choose to go organic to avoid these emissions. But obviously you have to be careful about that as well, because actually buying organic doesn't mean you're buying local. So you might think you're being green if you actually eat an organic kiwi, but you're not if it's actually being flown in all the way from New Zealand. So there is actually one golden rule when it comes to fruit and vegetable, which is actually obviously to buy local, to the local producers, and the second thing is actually to eat fruit and vegetables when they are in season. For example, eating strawberries and cream in the middle of December will never be a good idea if you want to be green.
Fantastic. Well, Karine Lalouette from Terre Eco, thank you so much for joining us. Well, we turn now to something totally different. We're going to cross to India, where with 7 months of annual drought every year, farmers are finding it hard to keep their lands lush. And so they're adopting new methods of irrigation. Indeed, mobile phones are turning perhaps not the tide, but taps on farms across the country.
Just dial a simple number and you can turn this irrigation pump off or on. New technology like this, developed in India, has one sole aim: to make farmers' lives easier. Now they can control their water pumps from wherever they happen to be. It certainly helped out Bausaheb Shelker, who owns a small farm in the west of India. He used to walk a kilometre every day just to turn the irrigation system on. Now he just picks up the phone. The invention's called Nano Ganesh, and it was all dreamed up by this man, Santosh Ostwal, whose sales technique is also going well.
A user is illiterate farmer. We have been training now agro-electronics commandos all over India. Who is this agro-electronics commando? These commandos are there who are taking Nano Ganesh to the farmer, overcoming all the opposition and hurdle provided to propagate the technology.
It's an invention with a great deal of promise in a land where half of the population depend on agriculture to survive. Just like Nano Ganesh, several other inventions to improve irrigation are now taking off, like putting each plant on its own individual drip or using a solar-powered irrigation pump. In these poverty-hit areas, which can often go 7 months of the year without rain and see temperatures pushing 40 degrees, conserving water is at the very heart of farmers' concerns.
Well, that's where we're going to have to leave it for this edition. I hope you enjoyed your visit to the agricultural fair here in Paris and that you'll find a happy balance between your diet and the environment. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this week's show. A big thanks to our producer, Young Chim, who helps put it all together. That's it for this week. See you next time.